sober. Now what?
What are you going to do? I think today you should pick up your Sobriety for Dummies book
Yeah.
and read along with us. And if you don't have one, go to Amazon, pick it up, and, grab some friends, grab your favorite beverage, and just come on this journey with us as we walk you through Sobriety for Dummies.
I'm so glad that we're doing this.
Me too.
Yeah, it's really fun. So today we are overcoming stigma. Bum, bum, bum. I want a sound effect right there.
And building confidence,
And building confidence.
right? Because there's a stigma
Mhm.
to getting sober.
Yes.
And I think that can cause some insecurities, right? It's like,
Yes.
we're going to help you with that.
Yeah. So where do we want to start? Do we want to start with?
Chapter 2,
Okay.
overcoming stigma.
The stigma.
Whether we
Mhm.
like it or not, there is a stigma, unfortunately. And I think the more that we talk about substance use disorder, about sobriety, about recovery,
Yeah.
we lessen the stigma. I mean, I remember my first 5 years, I was afraid to tell people,
Yeah.
especially who I worked with, because I was afraid that they would look at me, and I'd feel shame.
Mhm.
But it was actually, I found out it was quite the opposite. When I would joke around and tell people, on business trips, they're like, "Oh, you're not drinking." I'm like, "No, I said I'm a retired professional." They would laugh. And it used to spur some really genuine conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, so I got sober in a different era,
A different time.
different time. And it was really like locked down. We didn't really talk about our sobriety in the public eye. We didn't talk about it at our jobs unless we had to go to HR, which didn't really help the stigma, right? Or dismantling the stigma, or
Hmm.
letting people know that there was a solution to the problem.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I mean, I didn't really come, come out about my recovery until I was living. It was pandemic time,
Hmm.
so that was a couple of decades in. And I know now there's so much room and so much, it's a spaciousness for us all to be talking about it and to break the stigma around addiction, because now so many people face addiction.
Yeah.
It's what's the word? Omnipresent. It's like everywhere. It's ubiquitous. It's overwhelming
Yeah.
on how many people are suffering from addiction. And it starts, I hate to say it here, I'm going to, with babies
Yep.
and cell phones. I'm
Yeah.
just going to start there. That's a big, bold statement that people don't like to, oh, the cell phone, it makes them quiet when they're sitting at the restaurant, or, oh my God, Tamar, I went to a restaurant recently with a friend of mine, and it was a beautiful outdoor setting. And there were 5 kids and the parents. 5 kids, first off, that's a lot.
That is a
God
lot.
bless them. And they were aged probably like 2 to 10, 2 to maybe 12.
Hmm.
All of them had headsets on and iPads.
Hmm.
This was a beautiful outdoor setting, and they were all plugged in.
Yeah.
And I just thought, do you know what you're doing? No,
Nobody has any idea.
nobody has any idea. And I don't want to make this about, cell phone addiction or media addiction. But I mean, that's as early as it starts. It's like we're just plugging ourselves into a device.
Yeah.
And getting that nice, yummy dose of dopamine, that satisfying, that pleasure. Oh, God.
And when it comes to stigma, I think a lot of people think of, like I mentioned in one of the previous episodes, and if you're just tuning in now, we encourage you to go back, listen
Mm-hmm.
from episode 1 on, because we really do guide you through some important topics that we think are important in the book that can really help. But,
Yeah.
when it comes to stigma, we often think of an alcoholic as someone who's homeless and living on the street or drinking vodka out of a brown paper bag. But the reality is what about the mummy wine culture? There are, I bet you, so many mothers out there that are struggling right now, and all they can do to bring down that anxiety, to cope, is grab the bottle of wine. I've heard it over
Mm-hmm.
and over and over again, how, they would go, well, I have 2 children, I have a husband, I have a nice
Mm-hmm.
house, I have a great job. But then I go home and I cope with wine and I feel lost. I feel stuck, right? That is alcoholism as well.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Well, that the mommy wine culture, right, is encouraged,
Yeah,
right, and making a stand of like I don't drink. That can be intimidating
it can.
and isolating. Again, going back to the isolation that
Hmm.
we face as addicts, and it's not good for us. So, how can we kind of start breaking out of that? And I think in this chapter we go through it beautifully. We share some really great ideas on being honest
Hmm.
and being able to have conversations that, again, going back to vulnerability, touching that, but most importantly, celebrating your status, celebrating your stand, your mark in the line, your mark. Like, here's the line. I'm not going to go past this.
Yeah.
Recognizing that alcohol in your body doesn't work. That's
Yeah.
like so cool.
And on page 33 of the book, we talk about how to dismantle that stigma. And
Yeah.
it's, speaking openly
Yeah.
about your struggles. Everybody has them.
Mm-hmm.
There's not
Mm-hmm.
it's not just an alcoholic that has struggles. It's everyone on this
Yeah.
planet. If we start to talk about it, we start to normalize it. I mean, when I told I'd go home from work and grab McDonald's story a long time ago to a friend, and then I would go home and have another dinner, I'd
Yeah.
actually stop by a garbage can and get all the garbage out of my car. She's
Oh
like, "Oh
yeah.
my gosh, thank you for telling me." Like, I did that too.
Yeah.
Right? There's no shame in this stuff. We're
No.
only by not talking about it, we're creating the shame around it.
It's just life. It's
Yeah,
just life. It's the human experience
it
that we're all
is.
going through. And as we break that stigma, we start to build confidence.
Yeah, we do.
Right? We start to be able to stand on our own and say, this is who I am and what I represent. And I represent a life of no drinking. Like,
Hmm.
yes,
Yeah,
that becomes really attractive.
it is.
And people are like, what, you don't drink and you have a good time in life and you can do all this stuff?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure can.
Right.
Plus some.
So cool.
Yeah, and in building confidence for me personally, it's been about creating a better routine
Mm-hmm,
that
mm-hmm,
includes, mindfulness,
mm-hmm.
meditation. A routine has been key because it's taught me new behaviors to
Yeah.
replace the old ones that were causing me so much trouble and grief. And that has been key. And doing it little by little, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
you and I love to nerd out over neuroscience, but the brain can only take so much change at once. So if you're like us and you're all in kind of people, and I
Mm-hmm.
still catch myself doing it, pick one thing that you can change
Yeah.
in your daily routine, right? It's going to help you create that habit so that you don't even have to think about it, right? It's like you talked about
Mm-hmm.
riding a bike. Once you learn, it's like riding a bike. You don't even think about it
Mm-hmm.
anymore. And you can do that with everything. And I think learning these new habits, it also creates resilience because it gives you the tools
Yeah.
to overcome anything.
I want to invite our listener to create a GID. I know this is not in the book. I should have put this in the book.
And
Well,
what is that,
I
Lane?
know it's a little bit in the book. On page 78, we start talking about gratitude,
Yes.
right? And we talk about a little bit about the science of gratitude. And so, uh, this is my invitation to you: is to start a GID, which is a get it done, just to get it
Ooh,
done.
get it
Yeah, get
done.
it done. And what I've done is I've chosen two or three other women who I really admire, and I send them a little note every morning about what I'm going to get at today or what I'm going to get done. And it's like a gratitude. It's kind of it's connection. It brings me clarity as I'm writing it out, and it's a great library, so to speak, resource for me to reflect on over the past years. So I don't know. I think that would be a really fun exercise, and we didn't put it in the book, but I'm sharing it with you now. A GID list. Grab a couple of girlfriends, and again, that goes back to building your confidence
Hmm.
and showing like this is what I've done.
Yeah.
Super cool.
And one of the things that I always talk to people who are struggling, I tell them take a minute because we're so driven,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Whatever we want to put our minds to, take a minute and pause and turn around and look back at how much you have overcome, right? Because I don't think we do that enough. I mean, we spend a
Yeah.
lot of time dwelling on all the things that we've done wrong, but I don't think we take the time to look back and say, man, I've overcome a lot. Like I
Mhm.
actually have resilience,
Mhm.
right? Because that will
Mhm.
help you build your confidence, knowing that you've already started this journey well before you got sober.
Yeah, I think it's taken time. Again, I just go back to this, time. It just takes time to build that confidence.
Yeah.
And if you're, just thinking about putting down the drink and you're still sipping out of the mommy cup and, you're like, oh, I don't know how to do it. It's like, okay, today you're not going to drink.
Yeah.
Just today you're going to leave it at home and you're going to tell somebody, I'm not doing that today. And
Yeah.
that is the first little nugget of building some confidence.
Hmm.
you know and if you're 5 years into recovery and you're just like, oh, I want more out of my life, I want a raise, right? So how do we build confidence when we're 5 years sober? It's like, well, reach out to somebody and tell them, I want a raise, and start creating a game plan and start building that confidence.
Hmm.
Start generating ideas with somebody else.
Yeah.
If you're 20 years sober and you're just kind of complacent,
Hmm.
and it's like, oh, I want that confidence again.
Yeah.
Call somebody young
Right.
and ask them how they're doing, because you're more mature now
Yeah.
and they'll look to you and start slowly building your confidence back up. I mean, there's so many magical ways to build your confidence.
Yeah, I remember working with other people in recovery was a game changer
Mhm.
because in the beginning, I was like, I don't want to work with someone else. Like, what if I
Yeah.
kill them? Right. First of all, I'm not God, not going to kill anybody. But I would it was almost like I had this out of body experience where I would be asked some advice. And I was always very careful how I would put it. It was always a suggestion, but the stuff would come out of my mouth. And I almost had like an out of body experience at
Yeah.
times. And it's like, how did I know that?
Yeah.
You know what? Because other women took the
Hmm.
time to do that with me.
Yeah.
And so when I was able to do that for someone else, it just increased my confidence a little bit more because I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I can help somebody else, right? We pass this on.
Modeling behavior
Yep, totally.
in the psychology world. That's what we call
Hmm.
it, CBT world.
Yep.
It's modeling good behavior, modeling the behavior that we want. So I hope that you enjoy these chapters and that you will play along with us and build your confidence. And even today, with the sobriety, there are still, like, Tamar and I were talking earlier, and I was telling her I have this whisper of fear in a job situation
Yeah.
that something's going to be taken away from me. And I'm like, where is that coming from?
Hmm.
Right. But I was able to share with her, and that just kind of like, feel like, oh, yeah, I don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
I have the confidence that what is mine will always be mine, you know? And that just takes time in your recovery and a lot of practice, my friend, a lot of practice.
Yes, it does. It does not happen overnight. I know
No.
we'd all like to think it might, but it does not. But it's worth the wait. There's
Mhm, mhm.
every year that I progress in this journey,
Yeah,
I'm like, man, that was worth the wait. Man, that was worth the wait.
so good.
Yeah.
So if you're just joining us here, you've got 4 other episodes to listen to. Download the book or grab it on Amazon. There's free chapters over at Wiley, and I have some meditations for you over at the Mindful Life app. So grateful that you're hanging out with us. Start a book club. Anything else, Tamar?
No, I'm so excited that you're here with us on this journey because we don't have to do it
Cool.
alone. And,
Yeah.
we put this book out there for you. Doesn't matter who you are, this book is for you.
Yeah.
And we hope you enjoy it.
All right. Until next time, we're going into episode 6, which is transitioning into long term
Ooh,
sobriety. So
fun.
stay tuned for that if you don't know what that means, or if you're like, what do they have to say about that? Tamar, thanks for hanging out.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.